Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us once again for another episode of Education Connection. Tonight, we have a wonderful and exciting panel here with our Minister of Education, Minister Diallo Rabin, talking about learning first and quite a number of things that are going on with our signature schools. We have Tomisha Francis Wainwright, Partnership Co-Lead and Career Pathways Coordinator at Cedar Bridge Academy. We have LeVar Bassett, Partnership Co-Lead and Career Pathways Coordinator at Barclay, and Chris Naylor, Transformation Beyond 2022 Co-Lead and School Leader at Sands Middle School. We thank you for joining us this evening. Minister Rabin, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Selassie, and thank you, listening public, for listening in. Welcome, LeVar, Chris, and Tomisha. We're looking forward to having an exciting show as we talk about what's going on in education reform and where we are. As the public would know, we have in September 2022, we will be introducing two new signatures, two signature schools with signature program tracks at Barclay Institute and Cedar Bridge Academy. Today we have three persons on here who have been working quite extensively on what needs to be done in order to be ready to move. So as we move forward and we know what we're going to do in 2022, we also now are starting to have cast an eye forward to September 2023 and beyond. And last month, the public would be aware that I announced that the next wave of schools, schools that we want to bring forth in the transformation process was two parish primary schools. One at the Francis Patton Primary and the other one at Purvis Parish Primary. We also want to bring on board another signature school, another senior school with signature learning programs that will deal with hospitality and tourism and the educational center. We will continue, but in addition to that, we have to continue to expand all of the things that need to be in place for our students that are entering S1 for what happens in 2023, which will obviously be S2, S3, and S4 and beyond. So we'll continue to expand on the health and social care signatures and the financial and insurance services signature learning programs that will be at the Barclay Institute, and the STEM and the trades and professions that will be at the Cedar Bridge Academy. So without further ado, let me just pass on to Chris so he can get us started and give us a bit more insight into where we are and where we're going.
Cool. Thank you, Minister. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, what we're looking at right now is to establish teams to work on the work that's already been started, but to continue with the work and look at the team, develop the teams that are going to be working specifically with a focus on the two parish primary schools in 2023 and the new signature school. And I'm sort of here today to help this sort of encourage the recruitment process of this. We are still looking for more people to sign up and get involved in this process because there's no doubt about it, it's quite a big task. There's quite a lot of work to be done. And people that do sign up will be involved in all aspects of the process for the next phase of the schools. They might be looking at curriculum development or assessment. They might be looking at pedagogy. They may be designing new learning models. They might be prototyping those models. They may be partnering with industry partners and finding out what sort of certification and qualifications we want our students to come out of our next signature school with. And when I say it like that, it sounds like an awful lot of work, and it sounds like a really big beast. And I actually shared this analogy with you guys the other day that I heard sums up this process quite nicely, is that, you know, it is enormous, but we're going to eat this elephant one bite at a time. And we're looking at teams of people taking little bites out of this elephant to make sure that this, we're ready to roll with our new signature school and our new parish primaries come 2023. And I've sort of brought on this panel tonight to sort of share my experience with it, because I absolutely understand people's hesitancy to get involved with this. The process, this whole process of 2022 and transformation of the high schools into signature schools, which is going to roll out in September. This process started a couple of years ago, and all the educators in the system were invited to get involved. And at the time, I sort of looked at it and thought, well, no, I don't have any experience in curriculum development or system change. And where I'm most valuable is in front of my students, teaching them, what I do. And so it was thank you, but no thank you. And I then got invited again in December of last year. Same response, to be honest. I was still busy with in front of my students. I thought that was where I was best serving the system. And it wasn't until January of this year where I got sort of voluntold a little bit. I was genuinely a little bit reluctant about getting involved, which I know some teachers feel that way right now about the next step, because it took me away from. I got pulled into this workshop, and what I realized straight away was that how ill-informed I was, and that the questions that I had could be answered. A lot of the work that I was worried that I was going to be sort of landed with had already been done by other teams, and we were in a much better place than I thought we were going to be. So that was genuinely reassuring and gave me some encouragement and enthusiasm to continue the work. And what I want you to know is that if you volunteer, you'll end up working in work streams, and we have about 20 work streams currently working on the transformation for Cedar Ridge and Berkeley for September 22, sorry. And we're looking for a similar number of work streams to be working on the next stage. So where we're looking for you to sign up is on the Learning First website. There's a tab there to express your interest, but we're actually going to be closing that next week. We're trying to get these teams established within the next week so that we can start building and planning properly for 2023 and the work that needs to be done as of September. Even there'll be some work on that in June of this year before the school term finishes, and then we roll out and really get stuck into it. People are going to ask also, well, if I do sign up, how much work is going to be involved? And to be honest, I can't give you an exact answer. You might get pulled out of class a couple of times. You might end up having to do a workshop here, a workshop there. Any work that is done over weekends or in holiday time, there's a stipend for it. So we're trying to get people involved because we have some great people already signed up, but we're looking for more. Okay, so that's sort of where we're at, Minister.
And thank you for that brief introduction. Thank you, Chris, and thank you for that brief introduction. Also, thank you for unmuting my mic, Omar. I didn't realize it had been muted. Now I'm going to reach over to LeVar and Tomisha, and they're going to talk about how there are opportunities to get involved in the learning partnerships. Now, the learning partnerships is a very unique thing to our education reform, but I don't want to steal any thunder from Ms. Frances Wainwright, because she can talk about this all day long. So I just want to open it up to you two to take us through the learning partnerships.
Good evening, everyone. Just to stop, actually, I'm on the partnerships team, a co-lead, also serve as Career Pathways program coordinator for the Institute. Some of the exciting work that we've been doing, my colleague LeVar and I, and the learning partnerships team, we've been going to recruit learning part, and we've been looking at it quite differently beyond internships. Our position that we're coming from is that the future success of Bermuda as an economy, as a society, and a nation depends on our young people. And it's for that reason that education is everyone's business. So when you look at the signature schools, it's an opportunity for businesses, for community, organizations, associations to become learning partners on all different levels. And because signature, it can happen in a range of ways. We've been looking at it. Typically, like I said, everyone about internships and work placements, and that's the position position that we came from past as careers program coordinators. However, we've decided that we wanted to go beyond that. And for instance, some of the initiatives, and one thing I'm very excited about, please pardon the phone in the background, is the externships, the teacher externships, whereas teachers are actually going out in industry and gaining experience and professional development hands-on in the workspace. And what we learned in our research is that for the externship, one teacher out in industry can actually benefit between 20 and 150 students. So we're looking also at career fields, also collaboration with the Bermuda Public School Service, such as code bring. That means having industry partners, learning partners come into the classroom, support with curriculum, with the teachers, also providing employment compacts, which is new. That's the idea that upon graduation and students completing the graduates completing a certain set of criteria, they will guarantee employment, entry-level employment in industry. And when we look at this, it's not just benefits for student education, but it's benefits for everyone. For the learners, it's helping young Bermudians understand the different career paths available to them, better for further education, and they're accelerated towards the career goals and employment. Although we do have employability skills, but this provides learning school program actually provide so it's very experiential learning throughout their education and academic programs. It's a support for a more diverse and inclusive approach towards learning and the world of work for every young Bermudian. For industry, they have the opportunity to mentor students and guide them to become future employees in their industry. They get to really show and demonstrate the cutting edge technology and technical office. And I'll let that part, I'm going to jump on that because that's exciting too with our government civil service, coming in and showcasing their talent and also highlighting future opportunities in the businesses. For industry, again, work with the system to identify workforce needs. So we're also looking to support the needs and the challenges that are out there in the workforce. There may be gaps, and building greater relevance into the classroom. It's think about the role Bermudian society. It's going to ensure that students have the opportunity that are culturally relevant to Bermuda, and that's meeting Bermuda's needs, inspiring our young Bermudians to be exceptional learners and caring citizens. So it's also a social part and component to this. Social, we have talked about, we've had highlights in the community about our challenges, social with our young people. This allows industry as well as educators to work together to shape that, and also becoming recognized and active participants in the learning ecosystem that is learners throughout their academic and journey. Very time, and there has been much interest, but we do need more, and LeVar can tell you a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Ms. Francis. So you may have had a little bit of choppy delay on your broadcast. So if I do repeat some of the things you said, I do apologize. And I'm not sure if that's just my feed or if that's the overall broadcast as a whole. So I'll jump in. So first, I want to just highlight some of the benefits of becoming a signature learning partner. As Chris noted, we're looking to broaden the amount of persons or entities that are becoming learning partners. And so the idea is that the benefits are to help with young Bermudians understand different and future career paths that are available to them. We want to better prepare our young people for employment and to further their education at the tertiary level. We want supporting a more diverse and inclusive approach to learning that works for each and every young Bermudian. And of course, I believe, as Francis mentioned, this one, the most key one, in my opinion, is to address the labor market issues and employment gaps that occur in Bermuda. Now, when you talk about the partnerships, we want to go beyond internships, as Ms. Francis, I believe, mentioned. And there is an inside-out approach and an outside-in approach. And so typically we think of internships as a means by which students do work shadow and gain some knowledge. And we want to move into a direction in which students can gain real-world projects and develop programs and have professionals co-teaching within the classroom. That would be more of the outside-in support. And then for the inside-out support, we think of extracurricular opportunities, work placements, internships. And the hallmark, I think, of one of these is the externships, whereby teachers can train with professionals in their own industry to gain further knowledge. Ms. Francis spoke about what we typically know about, which is the signature internships, which is more of the work shadow scenario. And the signature externship allows teachers to gain professional development hours towards their professional growth that they can obtain both from school-based training as well as industry-based training. And so the idea is that if a teacher has cutting-edge knowledge about a specific industry, they can continue to prepare their students to be more on fire about those industries. And then we have the employment compacts. I believe Ms. Francis spoke about this, whereby students who obtain certain credentialing and micro-credentialing can obtain entry-level employment after leaving high school. To that point, we also have the signature immersion fairs, which we want to have annually. And this would be a deeper dive into all things careers. And so we're looking to host on a specific locale in Bermuda, on a specific facility, an area in which different industry signature partners can come in, host a building, speak to our M2s, M3s, and allow them to do workshops, engaging activities, and go beyond the career fair that just has the booth. These students will still be asked to obtain artifacts as a part of understanding what their potential signature involvement could look like. It also means understanding how your signature may interact with another signature, because there are layers to employment, as you all know. Further to this, another set of things that we like about the signature rollout is that the co-design, co-teaching, and the real-world project co-design and delivery. This will allow industry partners to come in and partner with teachers with designing curriculums that are based on international standards, but will onionize or localize the assignments to address real-world projects. So it could be anything from, let's take a look at this unit and how it can be tackled from a real-world relevant perspective. It could be, let's design a project that has an end game towards your certification. There are also hours that are related to some certifications, whereby industry partners may feel the comfortability to allow students on their facility to obtain that touch of what is actually going on. And lastly, Ms. Francis, I believe she talked about it, but I'll just touch on it quickly. And it's talking about signature learning programs may allow industry partners to come on to their campuses to have lunch and learns, sophisticated discussion about what is going on in their industry, and just talk to an industry professional about what was their journey, how did they volunteer, what were the schools they attended, what is their daily workflow like, and things of that nature. So those are the benefits of being a partner, is involving yourself in that. And currently, what the foundation of what allows that to work is the memorandum of understanding. And so that is moving from a system of schools to a school system that is systematized so that we have a broader inclusion of ideas and operationalizing things. And so I think I'll leave it right there, Minister.
All right, thank you, LeVar. Thank you, Tomisha, and thank you, Chris, for giving us that broad insight on how we're moving forward with the things that need to happen in order for education reform and especially the signature schools to move forward. I don't see any questions coming from our listening audience, so I will go ahead and ask a couple of questions that I have. And this is, and I'm hoping I could get this answer from all of you. What excites you most about the signature learning programs?
Okay, let's not all go at once, I guess.
Yeah.
For me, I'm going to be frank. When we came into this process, education has had a history of starting programs that don't always continue, and there have been changes in leadership, and there have been various dynamics that might cause that to happen, right? And then when we were asked to the career pathways team, that is, to meet with Learning First, I wasn't trying to be judgmental, but first you're like, here are these foreigners, they're Caucasian. Are they even going to get the problems that are localized here when it comes to institutional racism, education, and all things included in that, right? And so we asked the hard questions. Are we going to address these issues, bridge the gaps between the public and private sector through education and things of that nature? And they answered the tough questions and have continually shown a willingness to support a growth mindset in Bermuda. And so for me, it was easy to gain buy-in. Similar to Mr. Neal, I had some apprehensions and was very focused on what I was doing within education in my lane. But once being exposed to what the opportunities were for the future of education in Bermuda, I think I bought right in. So for me, it was the opportunity to be a part of something, to be a person that has his feet on the ground and be a part of change, which I found to be a refreshing approach to the education transformation.
Thank you for that. Is anyone else, Tomisha? What excites you about this?
What excites me the most about this is getting things done. In our role as career pathways program coordinators, for quite some time, dealing with the industry partners to secure work placements, we had an idea of employment compacts and apprenticeships. However, these weren't in place. LeVar and I had traveled overseas to several national career pathways conferences. And at one point, we saw where Bermuda was on the cutting edge. And then as we went back to multiple conferences, we saw how different parts of the United States were gaining on us, and actually some places were passing us in their legislature, in how their career pathways programs were operating. And we actually needed more, but we just weren't making the ground that we needed. And once we started this process, I mean, it was almost like we couldn't ask for anything more. So when LeVar speaks about the first meeting with the team, and we completed the initial study for the future world of work, and we looked at the data, and it was some hard data. And I'm going to be very frank and transparent. We looked at the data that came back from the Chamber of Commerce. We looked at what the employers of Bermuda had to say about our grad. Looked at why we realized that our high school graduates were the largest unemployed percentage in the country. We looked at, even though we implemented employability skills, the this process of the signature learning programs, with all the teams coming together. I mean, the ability to work with your colleagues of great minds across the stream of education. I mean, it's almost like we're all in this high-end masters doctoral programs together that's actually live and living and growing. So it's not just from the work that we were trying to do, but it's now not just LeVar and I trying to do it together by ourselves, but we have an army, a whole force working together. And now we've had an opportunity to meet with our colleagues in the civil servant, with Dr. Binns and Ms. Witter D. Hops, supporting us all the way through. I mean, it's exciting. That excites me the most. So, I mean, it's been a long time coming to see it actually moving forward and mobilizing. It's very exciting. It's an exciting time to be an educator. I mean, it would have been exciting to be a student right now.
Yeah, and Tomisha, I mean, I'm sort of following on a little bit from what you said there. One of the things that excites me, it's a bit of a cliche, but it's an opportunity to make a difference and to really improve the system. So that genuinely excites me. What Tomisha mentioned there with we're looking at the cold hard data of unemployment and our students. We're now, through the signature programs, giving our students an ability to get certifications that are worldwide recognized and transferable, as well, straight into the workplace or into tertiary education. And I know that's been a criticism of the system before, that hasn't always seemed to be the case. That hasn't been the perception. So I'm quite excited to change that perception. You're on mute again.
You're mute again, Minister.
You're on mute, Minister.
Thank you for that. Just listening to all of you talk, I'm hearing a common theme, and if I could sum it up and then just get get you to listen to where I'm hearing a common theme of we need to be honest about where we are with our education system and not be afraid to look at the data and follow the data that says we need to do things differently. We need to be willing to change. Today,
Minister, can I speak to that comment really quickly? Because
sure.
You're inspiring a thought in me, and
no. Well, we're having a conversation, so please go ahead.
Sure. So for me, that these guys touched on it, and you just mentioned data. And I think that is also, we see what's going on, but the data-driven approach to solving it is very much a part of what we're doing. Tomisha talked about our travel, and I was part of the team that helped draft the National Workforce Development Plan. And then you have Plan 2022 that comes online, and you try to see how you can fill those gaps. And so, you have the employment briefs. So a lot of the data in which Bermudians are not the featured number of persons within a sector, try to see how you can get Bermudians trained and skilled in an area where they can have long-term employability. So that speaks to that data-driven approach. So the career fairs, the signature immersion fairs, the explorations, experiences, and exposures that students will have at every level will all be based on a data-driven approach to see how students can gain employability. And it's not just careers based, how they can become better citizens within the community through, the involvement of this transformation in education. So for me, you just stimulated the thought of me. I just had to get it out. So sorry about that, but yes.
But that's what we're here. That's what we're here to do, is stimulate thoughts, stimulate conversations. Everything starts by sitting around and having those necessary discussions. I was about to mention, guys, I was at the graduation ceremony today for the Bermuda College. There were several of our dual enrollment students. They're doing very well. There was a young man from the Barclay Institute who's graduated at 16, Kellen Richardson, and he will be going into his third year at St. John's University in September to study actuarial science. So we do see those flashes of brilliance. We do get it right, but it has to be consistent and it has to be sustainable. It's okay having one or two here, but we want all of our students to have that opportunity to be the best that they can be. One thing that stood out for me when and listening to what you guys were saying was something that the president said, President Dr. Green said while she was giving her comments. And she said, we have to be adaptable, flexible, and accepting of change if we want to get ahead. And so this is what, one of the things that the pandemic has taught us is to be adaptable and flexible and willing to change. And if you're not any of those things, or even one of them is slipping, you're gonna get left behind, because we've just gone through a once in a lifetime event, this pandemic, once every 100 years or so. And the things that we are doing now, it reminded me, and I went back to look at, and I'm showing my age, in the 80s, right? Apple had these commercials, and the commercial were, we will, or yes, we will. And interesting, this was back in the 80s. They would have, imagine it, and it would say, imagine you're able to go to your classroom in your bedroom, right? Something no one could ever think about, and said, we will. And then it was like, imagine being able to walk onto your porch, in a pair of shorts, and be able to go to work. And it's like, we will. And so what we've had to get to that point literally overnight in some cases for some people. I know for myself, using Zoom, WebEx, and video conferencing is something I've actually literally been doing for the last almost 15 years, as I've had to communicate with people around the world. But to see us move into that, we have to be flexible, we have to be adaptable, and we have to be willing to change and understand that the way we did it works, but there's also other methods that could work as well. And we just have to be willing to press into that. I have an interesting question that I want to ask, and I'd be curious to hear what the answers to this one is if you were in the position that I'm in as minister, how would you make this reform process better than what it is now? I know I could be auditioning for my job,
Yeah, well, I mean, if I was a minister, I'd probably start with a couple of days off for the teachers and the kids. That would make me pretty popular straight away. But I think in seriousness, we need to find time to inform our educators exactly where we're at in the process, because there's still a lot of mixed feelings about it. Everyone knows the change is happening, it's coming, but they don't know when their school will be impacted. They don't know where we are exactly in this process. And I know that what we've been doing this week and what we're doing right now on the screen is making people better informed to a degree. But I think that if I had the power to shut things down so that we can have just an honest talk about, this is where we're at, this is where we're going, this is what needs to be done, I think that would be beneficial.
Thank you for that, Chris. I don't know who wants to go next.
Minister, I think if I had that opportunity, I think time for more to collaborate. I think there is an apprehension with some of our colleagues, and as Chris mentioned, if they were able to understand a little bit more, I really like to use the terminology overstand a little bit more. I think we could get more hands on deck and mobilize it. But there's also another angle. There may be some more things to move with legislation that can help, from the top, that will probably bring some sustainability, so that it's not just about the system today, but what will make the changes that will into the future moving forward. Now, what that list entails, another, but I think it's definitely reaching Palau as reaching those who are on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. Okay. I saw you writing. Okay. If I could rule the world for one day, kind of thing. I think for me, sometimes our teachers don't feel respected for the craft that they take a lot of time out to perfect. And so one, I try to find ways to show teachers appreciation in not necessarily with the big financial, monetary gesture or something like that, but just to be genuine about giving teachers appreciation. I think one way to show teachers respect is, as you're creating transformation teams, it's a good thing to ask for volunteers, but sometimes it's a better thing to go shake hands and say, I can see the great work you've been doing. We need you, and make it a very personalized approach to requesting support. Um, Myself, I would want to have a one-on-one conversation with the union leaders. Not so formal. I'm pretty sure in your capacity and in their capacity, there's probably a lot of formal conversations that happen, and sometimes it seems like one entity can be at odds with the other. I might take those guys to breakfast at Boucher and just have a discussion about our shared mutually beneficial goals and how we can make those things work towards bettering the environment for students. And I think that we as educators have to be more honest and intentional about how we employ teachers. And, I've always used the franchise um, mindset when it comes to going overseas to get the best draft pick, so to speak, someone who has experience in what we're doing, and bringing them in on a deliberate contract and saying, you know what, you're going to be here for 3 years, and we want you to blow our minds away with how to improve what we have while training someone so that we can be sustainable in our approach. And to that point, maybe even selecting some persons that are locally showing some commitment and passion and saying, you know what, we need you to go overseas, and here's a sabbatical. We need you to go get trained so you can come back so we can wow Bermuda with this product that we know is awesome. So I think that maybe what I do. And then I want to second what Mr. Nail said. A pet peeve of mine is that in bureaucracy, you just don't have the best of communication. The information is out there, but how it's received or how it's delivered isn't always done effectively enough and consistently enough so that all stakeholders are aware enough of what's going on. So I think sometimes there need to be better conversations had to educate staff, students, parents, the community as a whole on what this transformation process is all about.
I just want to say thank you guys for your honesty. I didn't realize I'll be taking so many notes here, but thank you. Were you about to say something, Tomisha? Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Minister, thank you. Mr. Bassett touched things, and he spoke about teacher training. I really do like the idea of our teachers having the opportunity to participate in teacher exchanges, to go overseas and work, and a teacher country over so a teacher exchange. And also, I actually came across 3 teachers, one at some primary and 2 at Delwood Middle School, that I asked personally to join the signature transformation team. As Mr. Nair said, Barb mentioned, can you come on in and have an expertise that we can use? So I did that, and I'm hoping that those 3, if they're listening, I hope you do join.
Uh-huh. I don't know. I think that some of the answers that you guys have given is really some good ideas that are worthy of exploring and moving forward, and worthy of exploring and seeing. I wrote here what you said is a teacher exchange program. That is something that we could possibly look into with our connections with CARICOM, with our connections with other overseas institutions. That could be something that definitely can be moved on. There's a familiar thread through this of communication. It's something that I know that the department has and the ministry seems to have continuously struggled with. And it's something, and actually, ironically, today I addressed something about communications to our union partners that we're going to take another look at this. I can tell you that there is a plan that was came up with, or a process of how things are communicated and stuff. And you know how the saying goes: the first casualty of war is the plan itself. It sometimes seems, and although we have communication and good at what I think is a solid process, for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to work. So there really does need to be another look at how we can get this right as we move forward, because as you said, it's critically important that we're able to have, and as this person just put up, not just communication, but effective and clear communication. And that is correct. It has to be, and what I do find is sometimes, and this is no knock on anyone in particular. I think I'd rather say this is more of us as a society. We shy away from the difficult conversations because they're difficult, although they're necessary. And we need to just have those conversations. We're having a conversation now, and we're bouncing back. So it doesn't mean that we're always going to agree. It doesn't mean that we're always going to come out, everybody shaking hands and feeling that we got, my point across. But at least we have an understanding of where people are thinking, what is, their issues, and we can also figure out how we can solve that. So I can walk away from this conversation now saying, okay, here's some things that some feedback, some very good feedback that I've gotten. How can we action some of these things? And don't be surprised if I'm contacting either of you or even more persons on the team on a personal level to say, hey, we spoke about this. How can we collectively do better in this area? Well, what is your suggestions? Here's what we're doing. Here's what we feel we can do. What do you feel we should be doing differently? So I just want to thank you for that question, and it's a really good one, and I think I'm going to keep that in my question list, and so I can ask that on more occasions, especially of educators and persons who find themselves in education or wanting to make comments of education. I did have a question that I wrote down here about how does the process feel different, but I think, LeVar, you really did speak to it where you answered the question about what excites you, and I think, and Tomisha, you spoke to it as well. You really kind of spoke to it feels different. There's been this history of programs stopping and starting, and that's what I heard, because that's coming into this ministry. You just heard all these things, but we've deliberately stuck to this program and done it in a way to allow people to be pulled along, versus this is what we're doing, get with it, or we're going to try someone else. No, and Chris kind of nails that. Means that when he came in, he was kind of skeptical, but as he got involved, he started to see, like, hey, wait a minute, this is something I can vibe with, and so that is something that I'm truly happy with when we did that. And that's truly happy with when we did, start this process and move forward. I do have one other question because we didn't touch on this, and something we always want to remind people of is how the signature programs will work in terms of the 70%, 30%. So sometimes people talk about, okay, they're doing signature. What about the fundamentals of education? Could just one of you very quickly speak to how that process actually does work, and that our students will be still getting the fundamentals in addition to these signatures?
LeVar, I don't mind.
Okay, Ross, go ahead.
Well, only that, of course, our students will be receiving the fundamentals. They'll be getting all the core classes that they have previously got, and we're looking at 30% of their time is going to be spent on the signatures, and they're going to have an opportunity to do a major strand and a minor strand, so there'll be a bit of diversity there. But the subjects, they're still going to be doing the math, the English, the sciences, the foreign language, that's still going to be part of their curriculum. So, don't worry about that. They're not only going to be doing mechanics if they chose to do automotive or something like that. Okay, so it's going to be broad and a proper school experience.
But I will say part of it, Chris, and you touched on it. What they will do in their core subject areas, they will be getting exposed to on a greater level the relevance of the subjects as it pertains to maybe their career area. And I think that's where getting students to buy into what's going on will probably be one of our greatest advantages. You're on mute, Minister.
Why do I keep going on mute? Tomisha, did you want to add anything, or you're good about that? I know she's always cracking me up because our internet is
Actually, I have to tell you that because education is so it is bouncy, so I'm letting them handle it. But also it's so awesome when I have my brothers in education speak, and I just sit back and let them handle it. So basically they did touch on that, so I'm in the cut just in.
There's also a component of entrepreneurship. I think that's a key element as well that will be brought out. Financial literacy, things that help students with life skills and just progressing as a citizen, as an individual. So I think those are some other benefits as well.
So that's good stuff. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like in September. As we talked about earlier on the radio, if we were sitting down having this conversation about 2.5 months ago, and people were still like, are we actually going to pull this off? Is it even possible? Don't even think it can be possible to where we are now, where people are saying, hey, this is going to be a good thing. We see it. We're going to recognize it and go on. I see Dana has popped up now. This usually means that we're winding down. But however, there was one question that did pop up that did not have anything to do with what we're talking about today. But it is, I do recognize that a notice from the commissioner went out today announcing that the decision was made to shift the end of school from the regular from the Wednesday, which would end up being June, instead of June 29th, it's school will end for students on the 24th. And I do want to take this opportunity to apologize for the short notice. It was not the intention of the commissioner to send this out. And I know there's been a bit, and I'm only mentioning this because we're talking about communication. Sometimes even the best laid plans don't operate the way they should operate, and this was one of those things that didn't go according to the plan. Didn't go according to the plan that had been laid out for that. Unfortunately, there are some very difficult decisions that need to be made, and we continue to make the necessary sacrifices. So when this was something that came up and it was presented as a potential idea, the pros and cons were weighed of closing early versus not. And the decision was that we would close school for students early so we could take advantage of that extra week to get some more professional learning in place to get us prepared for September 2023. And that's not just for the signature school, but for some other things as well. And so for that, I do humbly apologize on behalf of the Department of Education and the Commissioner for the short notice of that. It was not the intent, and it's never the intent to have information sent out, information as important as that sent out in the short notice that it was. But as I said, the plan just didn't work the way it was supposed to have worked, and I do humbly apologize for that. What I do want to know is, since this was done today, I will be making a further statement about this tomorrow in the House of Assembly for clarification for the country, and there will be some more information about some of the things that will be in place to support this particular closure. But we do appreciate the support of everyone who's helped us to get to where we are now, and we do humbly apologize for the inconvenience and distress this may have caused. But I urge people to listen in tomorrow as we're still working on a few things that I have asked that we put in place And so I'm hoping to make some announcements about this tomorrow. But with that, I just want to thank LeVar, Tomisha, and Chris. Once again, this is the second time we've been together this week. And I know it's not going to be the last time that I see you guys during this journey that we're up to. So with that, I'll just pass it back to Dr. Selassie, who's our moderator, who can take us home.
Thank you, Minister. And once again, we would like to thank this wonderful panel this evening for a great discussion. Tomisha Francis Wainwright, the Partnership Co-Lead and Career Pathways Coordinator at Cedar Bridge Academy, LeVar Bassett, Partnership Co-Lead and Careers Pathway Coordinator at Barclay, and Chris Naylor, Transformation Beyond 22 Co-Lead and School Leader at Sands Middle School. We want to thank you all for being with us tonight. Minister, thank you for being here. And to our audience at home and those of you that participated, we thank you. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks with our next episode. Have a great evening and good night.
And good night, everybody. Thank you.